Hi, it's Winton, and I'd like to welcome you to this discussion, maybe a little bit of perspective on what's happening now. We're all living through this pandemic, which has certainly rocked all of our worlds around the world. I just heard on the news that there's a billion people basically under quarantine right now around the world. And one of the things that has become clear from this episode so far, and we're in the middle of it, kind of not at the beginning and not at the end, and sadly, this will have a big impact on many families and that kind of thing. The idea of freelancing has been around online particularly for about 20 years, and this is one of those things that's gradually built up to the point where fully a third of the American workforce is doing some form of freelancing now. But the thing that this particular crisis has really brought to the fore is the idea that people can remote base. They can work from home. They don't have to come into an office, that sort of thing. And the way I've been thinking about this, because this has certainly changed our world, we've been training people how to freelance for 12 years now, so we've had a lot of experience with this, but it's going to be different because after this event is over and the virus is gone and people are back to work, many different companies are going to have to change the way they do things. In fact, in this particular crisis, we've seen how large companies in major cities have asked and really been forced to bring all their people, not have their people come into the office, because obviously that's the way the virus spreads. And many of them were caught unprepared. People don't know how to work online. They don't know how to work from home. They don't know how to use the tools that are available to them. And that's one of the things that online freelancers do know how to do. There is right now a whole world of jobs and projects out there that freelancers are doing online. They're doing it from their home. And I had quite the interesting situation. I was on a trip to the United States, and I've lived in Mexico for the last 12 years, and was flying through Dallas when sort of the hammer dropped, and I had to make reservations. I'm staying here at a B&B, and that I didn't know existed 2 weeks ago or what have you. And, there's all this resource in the sharing economy that people don't quite know how to use yet. They might be doing Skype with the grandkids or that kind of thing. But in terms of getting productive work done and bringing in an income, they haven't really locked into what it takes, especially among baby boomers, who are the people we know and love and see in the past, have seen every 6-8 weeks when we go to international living conferences. People say things like, well, I thought about freelancing, but I don't really need to do it, so I'm not going to do it, or I'm pretty secure in my job. Or they might say something like, I'll do it as a plan B. And, if something happens at their work or that kind of thing, and they never quite get around to it. And we've just been flooded with interest in our freelancing over the last few weeks of people say, wow, what a wake-up call. It's time to really put together that plan B. And that's what freelancing can afford. One of the interesting things that I see that baby boomers don't particularly understand well when they're first exposed to this concept is they don't know what skills they have that they can work online. In fact, most of them say, gee, I don't think I could work online because I don't think I have the skills. And in our training, one of the things that we focus on is this concept of domains of knowledge. And what baby boomers tend to think of is they think of where they are in their career right now, and I don't see how I can put that online. But in reality, baby boomers have 3 or 4 decades of experience typically working in companies and organizations and in life, solving problems. And so your domains of knowledge are not just limited to what you do now and the way you do it, but you can include in that things that you've done in the past, obstacles you've overcome, general management skills, relationship skills, particularly rolling out projects and managing different kinds of projects that might go on. The other place we look for domains of knowledge is in people's hobbies and their interest. People have had lifelong hobbies that really, they never thought of something that they would be making money at. But I remember talking with one of our members who had been an avid baseball card collector their entire life, and they were surprised to find jobs online for people that knew something about collecting baseball cards. And certainly that's one of the advantages that these online job and project networks give you, is the ability to tap into those unique skills you have by reaching out around the world. What we now know with the virus situation and the pandemic is that when things clear up, that more and more organizations are going to turn to the world of freelancing. And just over the last 2 or 3 days, Forbes has had an interesting couple of articles talking about how the demand for online freelancers will explode as a result of this. And another article, very insightful, on how online freelancers will be so essential to the recovery and retaining businesses, but helping to redirect them in a new direction. And this is one of the things that we see in our research product. We have a beginner's guide to online research. And in this coming, call it what you'd like, a rebuild phase or restart of the economy or that kind of thing, many businesses are going to have to do things differently. In fact, I have a friend that owns a restaurant, and he said, it was terrible. I mean, we were running along just fine, and it's like, somebody flipped the switch and we had to close up, and all of a sudden all my employees I can't pay them because they're not we don't have any money coming in the door, so we can't do that. And they thought about it for a few days, and they figured out what they could do is they could prepare meals for takeout and for delivery. And this is the perfect example of a business that was forced under the pressure of this situation to look for new ways of doing things. And this is particularly the way that the online researcher will be helping businesses rebuild, reconfigure, put their new stuff together. So it's going to be quite interesting how this comes together. A lot of businesses that never thought they would hire freelancers to do things are looking at that right now. The interesting thing about this downtime and the self-quarantine process that we're all going through is it does give you more time to think about things. And certainly one of the things that I know is that watching news, other than just staying informed about what's going on, I mean, that's an important thing, and learning that we need to wash our hands or whatever it might be, but playing news over and over again is not great, but it is a great time to kind of reinvent yourself, rebuild yourself. Well, like it or not, we're all going to be part of the rebuild the economy team in one way or another, either as consumers or as freelancers or as supporters of people that are doing that kind of thing. And so if you have an expertise, if you are good at solving problems, if you're good at relationship skills, and particularly relationship skills translate to working with teams in the virtual world, now would be a very interesting time to marshal those skills and put them into an online system as an online freelancer, because that's where the demand is going to come. If you look at it from the perspective of the freelancer, most of us thought of freelancing is something we did kind of in the local community. We got business cards printed up. We may have gone to Chamber of Commerce meetings. That's how I started my freelance business over 20 years ago, and I handed out my business card and hoped that somebody had something that I could do that would be helpful to them. Now we're able to tap into these global networks of jobs, and one I looked on this morning had about 120,000 open assignments today. Everything from proofreading to writing to making PowerPoint presentations to act as an overflow customer service person. You know, we now live in the world where companies can direct customer service traffic to you. A lot of that customer service work right now is in the form of emails and responding to peak loads of emails and that sort of thing. So lots of ways for baby boomers to tap into skills that they already have, pitch in and help during this difficult time, and create a path forward as this virus goes down and resolves itself. Obviously, a big job to do to get the economies of the world sort of restarted. One article I read recently talked about supply chains, you know, and we now have supply chains that if you have an item sitting in your home, the component parts may have come from halfway around the world. It's been on an airplane, it's been on a ship, and it comes to you right where you are. Those supply chains have been disrupted, and companies have to establish new supply chains. They have to figure out ways to bring supply chains into alignment with their current business needs. They have to look at ways to do things that don't involve supply chains in some cases, so they're not dependent upon some of those chains that may not be back for a while. So we live in a very difficult time, and it's interesting, as you can imagine, with a name like mine. I've been exposed to everybody's favorite Winston Churchill quote, and one of my favorite that seems most appropriate right now was his quote that said, "When you're going through hell, keep going." You know, and that's kind of the situation that we're in, you know, and we can make the choice. Do we check out? Do we become overwhelmed? Do we watch 6 hours of news a day waiting for something to change, or a number or a projection to change, or that kind of thing? Or do we take this time to put our lives together in a new way that up levels our value and service? We're doing a workshop this weekend for a number of people, and in my company we do probably 5 or 6 trainings of different kinds a week. We had over 220 people on a call on this past Saturday, training on an aspect of freelancing, and then Monday night we had about 70, and tonight we have some special training for our coaches that work with people and that sort of thing. And all the time making adjustments, understanding how to best retool for this coming rebuilding of the world economy, really. And the idea, and of course I'd heard the quote, you know, when you're going through hell, keep going, and I sort of understood it at the obvious level. But as I was thinking about it, the really important thing when Winston said the quote during World War II, you know, it was so important to have that population, both in the UK and around the world, really, prepared after the war is won, after it's over, after people are able to return to work, to really do that in earnest and be ready to go and be ready to jump on that. and everybody played a role, and people that didn't work historically began to work, and you're even seeing it now with the coronavirus situation. They're calling medical care workers back into hospitals that have retired. They because the knowledge they have is so valuable, the skill set they have is so valuable, and so this whole idea of figuring out how to retool what you know how to do, your wisdom, your ability to exercise judgment and make decisions, the ability to have an understanding of the big picture is very valuable as businesses and organizations are reinventing themselves. They're going from publicly based, depending upon foot traffic and rooms full of people, to online based and delivery service based, and coming up with new ways to deliver their services. And in my estimation, many of you have the skill set that will help people noodle that kind of stuff out, and this is going to be really important as we go forward. Another thing that comes up from time to time when I talk to baby boomers, and they say, I've thought about freelancing, but I don't really have the time to do that right now, or the interest to do that right now. And now, the stakes are higher. It's about our kids and our grandkids and how we can help and support them as they go through this process. And so, I wish everybody well as we go through this, and everybody does the best they can, and they take this time where appropriate to prepare for the coming freelance economy. This is going to be really an explosion of this kind of work, and I suggest that you go to the to Google and take a look at the Google website and type in the word Forbes and type in the word freelancing with that, and read those two articles and just understand how this fits in the big picture. And so with that, we'll wish you the best and look forward to seeing you in future Facebook Lives as this rolls forward. Take care.